Welcome to the end of your video 2021. This year we're going to do a retrospective look at the entire channel over the past 5 or 6 years, I forget how long it's been, and look at some of my favourite and least favourite skills that I've learned and rank them using a tier list. These skills are going to be ranked using 3 criteria. How useful is this skill? How easy was it to learn? And how cool is this skill? The X factor, the subjective component of all of these skills. Anything in the A tier and above, you should definitely learn. So I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 39 skills here. Some I hated, some I loved. Let's put them into the tier list. Let's start at the very beginning, the kickflip. So kickflips are unbelievably difficult to learn. Obviously in skateboarding it's useful and it is immensely cool. When you see a clean, crisp kickflip, it's just the coolest thing in the world. So kickflips, this will give us a good baseline. Let's put this as A tier, I think. Or is it B tier because it was so difficult?
I think it's C because it was so difficult.
It's not that. No, because it's so cool. We're going to put it in B. Let's start in the middle of the road. Kickflip is a B tier. Right. Axe throwing. Axe throwing is awesome. How useful is it? That's debatable, but it is super easy to learn. It all depends on whether or not you've got an axe that's suitable for throwing, but it's pretty easy to learn, and there's axe throwing facilities all around the UK, Europe, and America, so you can go learn in safety rather than throwing it over your back garden shed. However, not that useful. C tier. No, also B tier.
Not C.
No, axe throwing's too cool to be C. It's a B tier. Right, let's go backwards brain bike. So, backwards brain bike. You steer right, it goes left. You steer left, it goes right. Not much utility in this one. Can't really see why this would be useful. It's really, really easy to learn, but once you've got it, it looks like you're riding a normal bike. So, C tier. Okay, let's talk about the backflip. It's an F tier. But I don't have an F category, so it goes in D. Let's move on. Shattering a wine glass with your voice. Arguably one of the coolest things I've ever done on this channel. I didn't even know this was actually possible until I did it for myself, because you just don't know if people are using real glass or what's going on. It is incredibly difficult to learn how to do this, and obviously its utility is just destruction, but it is so cool. People's mind is blowing when you smash a wine glass using just your voice right in front of them. So for that reason, it can only be straight into the A tier category. Holding your breath for 4 minutes. This has actually been surprisingly useful. Actually, no, that's a lie. I've never used this ever since I learned it. However, this is really, really easy to learn. I have never seen such a return on investment from learning a skill. As in, like, the first day you start employing the techniques to hold your breath longer, you're already double what you were that morning. It's absolutely amazing. It's really, really easy to learn. It's hard to actually do it because it's uncomfortable and you literally feel like you're going to die. But it's really, really easy to get up to 4 minutes. I've never actually used it, really. Probably because I've not gone free diving. And for that reason, I'm going to give it a C. It is quite cool, though.
I think that's more of a B.
You think that's more of a B? Yeah, it's a B, isn't it? I think we're going to have a lot of Bs here.
Did you say axe throwing was a B?
Yeah.
Axe throwing is a C if that's a B.
Okay, if holding your breath is a B, then axe throwing has been demoted to a C, because holding your breath's cooler than throwing an axe. Right, the bullwhip. Completely useless skill. Very easy to learn. Extremely dangerous. And it sounds cool. Obviously, it cracks. And I was able to crack glasses and stuff, but I just don't really use a bullwhip in my day-to-day, and I don't see why you would, really, because what are you, whipping bulls? That's cruel. Bunny hops. The most useful thing you can do on a mountain bike. I can't believe I've got this far with mountain biking without being able to do them before. Extremely difficult to learn, but when you see someone doing a beautiful, nice high bunny hop, it's really sweet. It's incredibly useful. Straight into the A tier. Card springs. These are very hard to learn. These are extremely difficult to learn. They're really, really cool, but you get rusty with these. And I think if you give me a pack of cards now, I'd be shit. It is really cool, but it's so difficult to do that it's got to be in the C tier. The umbrella trick. I think that's my most recent video, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Incredibly easy to learn. I learned it in under an hour over 2 days.
Yeah.
In Scotland. Infinite utility. You carry an umbrella wherever you go. How cool is it? Well, it's awesome. You're flicking an umbrella up and catching it in air. That's straight. Is that S?
Special.
Is that special?
No.
Okay, it's A. A
Yeah.
tier. You should learn it. Learning to stack dice. This is one of these videos that I've kind of owe my career to because it kind of lifted this channel up to another level. I mean, it's a cool trick. It doesn't have much utility and it's pretty difficult to learn. But I did kind of build this entire YouTube channel on this video and probably another 2 or 3. So it's got to be a B tier. If you built your career on it, it's at least a B tier, right? Right. Crank flips.
D.
Why do I hate these so much? I don't know why I hate them. I see other people doing them, like Gabriel Wibner, he does quite a lot of crank flips, and they're cool when he does them, but mine's just look crap, and I don't even want to learn them anymore, so straight into the D tier category. Don't bother with these. Another one that's going straight into D is memorizing 100 digits of pi. So I was thinking about this today. I cannot do that. I cannot remember any digits of pi. 3.14, I think it's next is 28, but I could be wrong. This reminds me of learning at school where you just crammed the night before and then you did the exam and then that was it, gone. And it was completely useless to learn that information. Don't bother learning 100 digits of pi because you'll forget it tomorrow. The blindfolded Rubik's Cube. Now, for me, when I learned to solve the Rubik's Cube, you realise it's not that hard, but also when you learn to solve it, you think, how the hell does anyone solve this blindfolded? It can't be possible. It's extremely difficult to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. I still am amazed that I was able to do that. I really think that is one of the most awesome things I've ever done in my life, is solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. I think I've only done it twice, right? 3 times? 3 times? I think it's awesome. I think it's cool. It is a whole new level to the Rubik's Cube. Just when you think you're done with it, it gives you another thing to try and conquer. It's got to be A tier. I just think there's something about the Rubik's Cube. It's special, and doing it blindfolded is extra special. I loved doing that. I loved making that video. A tier. What have we got next? All right. Wheelies. How to wheelie. I loved making this video. This is when I started taking YouTube really seriously. It's when I first moved to London. I'm sentimental about this video. It was a special video for me. It's not that hard to do this. Anyone can wheelie. I think anyone can wheelie on any bike as well. But for me, my bike got stolen. I had just moved to London. I didn't know what was going on, and I was sort of getting my YouTube career off the ground. This is my first like big video. I still wheelie. As soon as I get on the bike, the first thing I do is wheelie it, no matter what I'm doing. So therefore, it is useful, it's easy to learn, and it's so cool. No matter where you are, if you see someone doing a wheelie, it's cool. Straight into our very first S tier. You should learn to wheelie. Everyone should learn to wheelie. Right, skiing. I hate skiing. It takes about 5 hours to get ready to go skiing. It's the same with snowboarding. It's cold. It's like crap mountain biking. You're waddling around trying to get into the gates to get onto the chairlift. Obviously the weather, it's always snowy. I don't get why people like skiing. I hated making this video. I hated learning to ski. And as soon as I learned to ski, I was done with it and I've never set foot on the snow since. Straight into D tier. Don't learn to ski, learn to mountain bike.
Personal opinion.
That is a subject.
Doesn't help that I broke my leg.
Yeah, and Kim broke her leg. It's subjective, but just bail on skiing. Also, if you're going to do snow sports, do snowboarding. It's so much better, so much more fun. Skiing, you have to go like 120 miles an hour to have any fun. All right, sabering champagne with the wine glass. Now, I just released a short about this, and people are freaking out that there's going to be glass in your drink. I've never had glass in my drink. The pressure of the champagne pushes all the shards of glass out. There's not that many shards of glass anyway. It's a relatively clean break. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but it's never happened to me. I think it's cool. People ask me to do it all the time. Surprisingly, there's champagne at so many different events throughout the year, and there's always a champagne glass. So, I mean, for that reason, it's easy, it's useful, and it's awesome. I mean, it's an A tier, 100%. Right, learning to shoot. So I learned to shoot a sniper rifle, and this is the only thing that I've ever done on this channel where I just didn't really get what the difficulty was. I'm not saying I'm like a marksman or anything like that, but I put it through like a 2p coin sized hole like 3 times in a row. So it's not that hard to do, and you know, it's kind of fun. Like my life would have been the same if I never learned to shoot. D tier. That's probably because I'm British though. Guns are bad, okay. Right, finding water in the forest. Now this one's a bit strange because this works so well, and it's really easy to do, but it depends on the time of year. So if it's the right time of year, then you get water. The only thing is I was nervous about putting this video out because it harms the tree. I didn't want to encourage hordes of people to go to the forest and start drilling holes into birch trees. But it does work, it's ultra refreshing, and it's clean. So I guess I'm going to give it a C tier. I think that's about right. Making fire. Still on the survival genre. I loved learning how to make fire. I've tried it before this, like before I had a YouTube channel, and you immediately learn this is extremely difficult to do, to generate that sort of heat with wood. But I learned 2 different methods of making fire. One was the hand drill technique and one was the bow drill, where you use like a shoelace or a cord to do it. Both techniques work really, really well, and the results are just amazing. There's nothing more satisfying than making your own fire from things that you found in the forest. It's absolutely amazing. I love doing it, and of course it has utility. It's extremely difficult to do though. One of them is way easier than the other one. The hand drill technique is an absolute nightmare. But it's just an awesome skill to have, and it does have genuine utility. So, A tier. Splitting an apple in half with your bare hands. Now, many of you would say this has no utility whatsoever, but what if you don't have a knife? Well, you could just bite into the apple. However, I did find a utility for it. I gave a talk at Google, and they asked me, what do you need to do this talk? You know, you need a PowerPoint presentation, you need like, do you need a screen, do you need a microphone, blah, 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 blah. So I needed all that stuff, but the extra thing I asked for was 100 apples. They didn't ask many questions, they just delivered 100 apples, and I got all the members of the audience to break this apple in half, and it was like a sort of 50-50 success rate. The women in the audience actually had more success than the men. I'm not sure why that was. I think they were just listening more. When people first got that apple to split in their hands, their mind was just blown that they had this capability the whole time. It's not really a skill that you learn, it's a skill that you realise you always had. So for me, I found a use for it. I think it's really cool, and obviously it's extremely easy to learn. B tier. Right, let's go to drawing dotted lines on the chalkboard. Super easy to learn. I think I learned it in like less than an hour, I can't remember. Super easy to learn. I mean, you might say it doesn't have any utility, but I mean, you're watching this YouTube channel, so I kind of built my job, my career around this video. I think this is my most viewed video on the channel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you are drawn on a chalkboard and you do need a dotted line and you need them to be uniformly spaced. So this is actually got use, and it's super easy to learn, and people's minds is just blown when you do it. So I've got to put this in the A tier category. Highly recommended.
15 million views.
15 million views. Is that the most viewed video on the channel?
Yeah.
Yep. Who would have thought? Out of all these things I've learned, people want to watch me draw dotted lines on a chalkboard the most. What am I doing with my life? Let's move to a random one. Riding bike rollers. I don't know why the internet seemed to like this video. I thought it would just be another sort of esoteric biking video, but I use this all the time because I train all the turbos in the winter because, well, I live in Scotland. So it's extremely useful, and I think if I had learned this in a different way, it would have been easy to learn. I should have learned against the wall so I didn't have so many bails, but I wanted to just jump into the deep end with clipless pedals and no bench or chair to help me up. So I think there is an easier way to do this, but I use it all the time. It's not that cool though. I mean, it's kind of just a training tool. Not really sure why I got that many views, but I enjoyed making the video, but definitely at least a B list because it's so useful. All right, another biking one. Riding a bike upstairs. I mean, I do this a lot, surprisingly. It just sucks having to get off your bike to push it upstairs, and pushing a bike upstairs is super miserable. Also, when you're riding trails, there's quite a lot of time where you're approaching a sort of steep incline at low speed and it's quite rough, and you kind of have to use that same technique to pedal over rough stuff. So just as a climbing technique, it's extremely useful. And when people see you riding upstairs, their mind is blown. Plus, it's not that difficult to do. So, another A tier skill. Basically, no skills are bad to learn. The penny farthing, whilst we're on cycling genre. So, penny farthing, surprisingly easy to learn. I think I only crashed it once, and it was just after we stopped filming, right? And it wasn't that bad. It was surprisingly not a bad crash. So quite easy to learn to ride. Questionable utility. Like, seriously, it's so much less useful than an actual bike because you can't really stop. Well, I can't. But people think it's awesome, and I think it's cool as well. But
You get stopped in the street.
yeah, you get stopped. You can't cycle anywhere. Actually, yeah, it has no utility because you can't actually cycle anywhere because everyone stops you asking what are you doing. So for that reason, just based on its complete pointlessness, I'm going to put it in the C tier. Nah, it's a B tier. It's so cool.
It's a C tier.
Yeah, C tier. Okay, C tier. The tablecloth trick. You can't do this with real cutlery and crockery that you actually plan to eat off. It's way too risky. But it is super easy to learn. I mean, it's questionable whether I even learned how to do this because I did it first time. Although there is a lot of technique to it. It is really cool to see it done. I mean, a lot of people don't believe that this is even possible. When I did talks in schools, I used to do the tablecloth trick with the kids, and their minds would always be blown when they did it. So yeah, it is cool, but like it's limited utility. You can't do this at home. C tier. Let's talk about the Salmon Ladder. Extremely difficult to learn. It has limited utility unless you're literally competing in Ninja Warrior. And when you see someone do it, it doesn't look that hard. But when you do it yourself, it's nigh on impossible the first time you get on the Salmon Ladder. So, I mean, it's such a sense of achievement being able to do that when I did, and it took me so long to even train for it. I don't see many of these in gyms, and you just don't get the recognition you deserve when you actually do it. So C tier. Learning to manual. Kind of like learning to wheelie, except really, 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 really difficult. It is way cooler than a wheelie, but it is infinitely harder. With wheelies, I can kind of wheelie any bike, but with manuals, it takes me a while to get used to it. However, a sweet manual is just... And there is some utility in a manual as well, because on pump tracks, you see people manualing for speed. So I'm going to put the manual, just because of its difficulty, into the B tier. Picking a lock with paper clips. It's quite difficult to do this, actually, but it does obviously have some utility. If you're in a pickle, if you're in a pinch, you can open a lock. Like a small cheap padlock is quite easy to open. You could probably get your standard house lock as well with paper clips. So it is really useful to do, and it blows people's mind because you see it in movies all the time. You probably don't even think it's possible. It's got to go into the A tier. It is way, way easier to learn to pick a lock with a lock picking kit, so that's what I recommend. Right, whilst we're on that subject of illegally breaking into things, let's talk about cracking a safe. Cracking a safe is so cool. I always wondered in movies, what are they even trying to replicate here? But once you actually get into it, and there's like a kit you can buy now that It teaches you how to crack a safe. It's so fun, and it's a methodical process as well. It's not like cracking a lock with paper clips. You're working towards your goal, and it's just so satisfying when that safe door opens. However, I've never actually encountered a safe with that lock on it. It's incredibly difficult to do. It's super cool, but I've never seen a safe with that lock on it. So I'm going to put it into C tier. Yeah. Limited utility. Right, the Rubik's Cube. Straight up Rubik's Cube, not even blindfolded, just learning how to do it. Please, if you're watching this video, learn how to solve the Rubik's Cube. It will make your life better. I don't know why, I don't know how, but everyone I know who can solve the Rubik's Cube has never regretted learning how to do it and routinely grabs a cube and solves it. I love this thing. I can't put my finger on what it is about it. It's just magical. This thing is magical. It's easy to learn how to solve it with your eyes, as in not blindfolded. People think you're a goddamn genius when you do it, so it's cool. And it does have utility because I use it to chill out, I use it to relax. So for that, I'm gonna put it in S or A? S. It's so cool. Please, everyone learn to solve the Rubik's Cube. Also, I have a class on Skillshare that you could take. Here's one that's useful. Learning to deal with or swim in cold water. If you live in Scotland, there only is cold water. This is surprisingly useful, and I was really amazed at how much progress I made each time I exposed myself to cold water. I went from thinking this is completely intolerable and I will not be able to deal with this, to happily being able to spend like 50 minutes in like 9 degrees, 8 degrees water. When you're swimming in open water, it's always going to be cold, even if you're in a warm country. So having the ability to control your breathing and your mind and to not panic when you're in cold water is so useful. I really recommend anyone try it. Also, it just feels great, and people think you're bonkers if you can deal with cold water. Straight into A tier. I love that video. Out of everything I've done on this channel, that is the achievement I'm most proud of, is swimming across a river, a tidal river, 1 mile wide in cold water. That is what I'm most proud of out of everything on this tier list. Learning to juggle, very easy, cool trick. You can learn it in like under 5 hours, I think, under 6 hours definitely. It's a cool trick. Limited utility, C tier. How to spin a basketball. Pretty difficult to learn, but this blows people's mind and it's really fun to do. Obviously limited utility, so B tier. Learning to unicycle. This was the second video I ever did. I loved learning how to do this. You don't come across that many unicycles, and it's not a very good way to travel around. So C tier. I love all these skills. They're like my babies. Yeah. I feel bad putting them into C tier. I feel bad judging them. Right, Slingshot. I loved the Slingshot. I was amazed at the precision you can have with the Slingshot. But people don't really seem to care if you're good with the Slingshot. It's pretty difficult to do as well. It took me a while to get good at it, but I really like it. I can see some utility in it if you want to kill something like small mammals, but that's not what I'm into, so C tier. Muscle ups. Not only do you have to be incredibly strong, but you also have to develop that technique to get over the bar. I love seeing people at the gym do muscle ups because you know that person's in shape. However, if you don't watch, they can actually kind of destroy your shoulders. And for that reason, I would actually recommend, if you're wanting to just stay strong, just do dips and pull-ups separately. But muscle ups, you see people doing them all the time. They obviously are a great training exercise, extremely difficult to do, but they're super cool. B tier. Telling you what day of the week any date lands on. So if somebody gives you a date, you can tell them what day of the week it lands on. Kim.
Yeah.
Give me a date.
14th of June, 1975.
Saturday.
Let me check.
It's a Saturday.
Yes, it is!
So it's easy to learn, it's incredibly useful, and it blows people's mind. Like, what's not to like? Please learn how to do this.
Was it in?
A tier. It's got to be A tier. This leaves us with one remaining skill. I made a game a while ago, a web-based game in JavaScript. There was like a slider and you had to guess which frequency the wine glass broke. Anyway, JavaScript is amazing. Is it the prettiest language? No. Is it the easiest to learn? No. But it's lightning fast and has unbelievable utility. And the things you can do with it are amazing. You can make games. You can make programs that run databases. You can program visual effects programs. You can do music with it. JavaScript has no limits. It's absolutely the most useful thing I have ever learned on this channel. More broadly, what I'm talking about is programming, but if you have to pick one language, I would say pick JavaScript. Python is the easiest to learn, I would say, and the easiest to read, but every time I want to actually do something, it ends up being in JavaScript. JavaScript has to be S tier. If you're going to learn anything this year, take my word for it, learn a bit of programming. If you had to pick one language, in my opinion, I would say go for JavaScript. So that's my skills tier list over the last God knows how many years, 5 years, something like that. We have 3 S's, a bunch of A's and B's, and some couple of C's and D's. I hope you enjoyed this more chatty video, having a retrospective look at what I've done on the channel. Thank you very much for sticking with me. I'll see you next year. We've got a lot planned. Take it easy. Peace.